All right, everyone. Welcome to SC2 and welcome to my talk today on position of choice. I'm more than honored and privileged to be able to give you guys some value in talking about the position of choice and what these three words mean to me. SC2, by far my favorite conference of the year, my favorite event of the year. First of all, I want to congratulate you guys for making it to day two and for choosing growth and for choosing the SC2 conference. And so there's so much you guys will take out of today. Let it absorb you. Grab your notebooks. Be ready to take notes on everything throughout the course of the day today. And it starts with a position of choice with me. And so this is truly, I live my life. I like to think in a position of choice. And I've given myself that ability through being vector trained. And so being vector trained means a lot of things. Being vector trained means you start as a rep. And so everyone here started as a rep, or you're still a rep. And from rep, you guys probably might not even know some of this stuff. You can go assistant manager, sales manager, branch, district, pilot. That's just the manager side. You can go sales. You could go with service rep, events team, closing gift consultant, business gift. You want to learn how to run the booth. Maybe you want to do the realtor program. And so some of the stuff's not even mentioned. And then you might be sitting here thinking like, Alex, I'm not working with Cutco after this summer. And it's like, well, then you're over here. And so maybe you're not Cutco after this. Maybe your arrow is like a squiggly line to you're going off to college or some job, or you have an internship or whatever. And so the point is, everyone who's listening to this has started or is starting right now, right in the middle and in the center. And so for me, I want to take you back to when I was just starting as a demo rep. Here's me at my first conference. So Vector conferences is my pride and joy. This is the first one I was ever at. It was called Year End Banquet in January of 2019. I was freshly into the job, 2-3 weeks into it, maybe like some of you here. And I didn't know Cutco and Vector at all. And so when my manager, Casey, he's like, Alex, you got to come to this conference. And I was like, all right, like I'll do it, but I'm not going alone. And so called in my sisters for backup here. She brought her best friend, Madison, who actually lived in Chicago. And so they came to the conference with me at a +1 and a +2. Really anything they could put a ball gown on for. They were pretty excited. And so I was at my very first Vector conference. And the whole time, Madison's jaw was basically just on the floor. And everybody that was going on stage, whether they were getting like a bonus check or BMW, Madison's like, oh my gosh, like, who is this person? Like, are they really getting a free car? Like, what's going on? And I was learning everything as she was. I was brand new to the job, but basically I was like, yeah, pretty sick. Like, Vector's pretty cool. Like, Cutco's legit, huh? Like, and I was like, I didn't know what a Petit Santoku was, but I acted like I knew everything. And so as we're sitting there, Madison's like, this is so cool. I'm like, yeah, like I'm gonna be a manager someday. Like, I'm gonna run the St. Cloud branch next summer. And she's like, really? And I'm like, I'm like, I have no idea. Like, in my head, I'm thinking, oh, I have no idea. But I always thought that I was going to go rep to branch. And like, it was the very first thing. I don't know where the seed was planted in me from the start, but I always thought like, I'm going to run a branch back home. There wasn't an office in St. Cloud where I'm originally from. And so I thought it was an awesome opportunity. So from the start, this is kind of how I looked at it. I was going to be a rep in the summer of 2019, and then summer 2020. I was going to run a branch. And I was pretty certain on this per se, but I didn't really know. And so the whole time I was a rep, I used that summer and the following time, and I sat in the position of choice to give myself the ability, and I didn't know what position of choice was at this point, but everything I did was in preparation of in case I ran a branch. So if you go back to all the way when I started with Cutco, that's me in training. And so I was trained in a satellite office. You guys probably don't even know what a satellite office is. Basically, I was trained in a closet of an escape room by Casey Fenelon. So thank you, Casey, for changing my life forever and teaching me how to sell knives. But my first couple of weeks, I sold some Cutco. I was pretty excited about the job. And so when Casey told me that there was this thing in Chicago at the end of January, I was all in. And so I was like, all right, I'll do it. And he said, okay, Funk, like, we're super excited to bring you with. Just so you know, it's a very professional event. You're going to be the only rep in North Star there, and you got to dress up. Like, you can't look like a scrub, is basically what he said. And that's me in the front row. I stick out like a sore thumb. That was my idea of dressing professionally. If you guys don't know me, I'm from central Minnesota, like agricultural. I live surrounded by cornfields. We don't have a suit coat in our county, let alone in our house. And so I had a pair of khakis on. That was my idea of dressing up. But what was really cool was I showed up and I was engulfed by success. And if you look in that picture, looking back, 2 silver cups. In the moment, it was like, all right, 2 trophies and 2 babies in the trophies, and that's cool. I had no idea the significance of what that meant. 2 silver cups is incredible. I didn't know that at the time. I didn't know anything about business, or I didn't really know anything about life. I was an 18-year-old at the time, freshman in college. All I knew was that I was selling knives, basically. And so I went from being surrounded by this to being shipped on an airplane to Jamaica. So I worked my tail off to earn the Jamaica trip, and I won it, and I earned it. And although it looks like I had a lot of fun, the top middle picture actually probably represents what it felt like to be there. And I just felt like some 18-year-old kid that was lost in the jungle of vector marketing. And I was lost and confused, and it was 3 weeks into the job, and part of me was like, how much longer am I going to do this for, and what am I even doing? It's funny because my friends were seeing me like go to Chicago and go to Jamaica. They're like, what are you doing? I'm like, I have no idea, but I'm selling knives, and like, ask your mom, she has a full set kind of thing. And it was awesome. The trip was great, only because I was kind of homesick, but I was surrounded by college age kids who just were different. And that was something that I was able to recognize in the moment, and just realize that I graduated with 70 people from a town of 1,000. Everybody went on to one of 2 colleges. Everyone did the same thing, and everyone had the same dreams and aspirations. And all of a sudden I was on this trip with 70 people who were so different. And I realized the atmosphere of vector marketing, and I saw what vector truly was. And all of a sudden I recognized that it's more than just selling knives. And being able to be on this trip really opened my eyes to the fact that everyone who works with this company is different. And like, these were all managers, I'm pretty sure. And I was able to see that there are people out there who are motivated and dedicated, and they just desire to be successful and get the most out of life. And at that moment, I was inspired, and I made the commitment. I was gonna be a rep in the summer, and instead of going back to being an electrician, I was gonna stick it out, and I was gonna keep selling knives in the summer. And so I started the summer as a rep, and the whole time in my mind, I was gonna run a branch next year. And so this was how I carried myself the whole summer, was that I wanted to run an office. And it was like deep down within me, it was a want. It wasn't really like a desire, but it was a want. So like I wanted to do it. Interested, not committed. And so when the moment came where I felt like there was some kind of pressure to make a commitment right here, I got really nervous. And so Dane texted me for Leadership Academy at 8:39 a.m. As you can see. Basically, you could read the message. Are you around for Leadership Academy? Yes. Well, in the 20-minute span right here, I had time to create a voice memo, sent at 8:59, and basically it was 5 minutes of why I did not want to be in TLA. It was 5 minutes of why I did not want to be a manager. And so I definitely overthought all of it. I was too nervous to tell Dane to his face. And so if you're sitting on this call and you're like, wow, it'd be cool to run an office, or it'd be cool to, be a branch, or it'd be cool to like move up to the assistant manager position for the school year. But a lot of you is telling you like, it's not possible, and you'd fail, and you wouldn't succeed, and you don't want to be pressured into it, and you want to go back to like all these things, all these reasons. I packed all of that into a 5-minute voice memo, and I sent it to my DVM. I sent it to Dane. And it was really just because I didn't have the courage to say it to his face. And so basically Dane called me right away. He's like, Funk. He's like, I'm not asking you to run an office. I was just asking about Leadership Academy. Like, you got to chill out. It's like, you have 4 days left of SC2. You got to just keep selling Cutco and doing your thing. And so I realized, I was like, yeah, I should probably chill out. And so I just kept selling Cutco for SC2. I made it to the conference in Chicago. And to be honest, I didn't enjoy myself at the conference at all. to be like, my head was spinning. I didn't know what I wanted to do with Cutco. I didn't know what I wanted to do the next summer. I didn't know what I wanted to do in the fall. I was overthinking everything. I definitely let it get the best of me. I didn't enjoy the conference that much because I let all these thoughts kind of take advantage of the moment that I was living in. And so this all kind of just crashed on me when Mike Muriel was on stage, and he said, we all got a handout, and he said, imagine your life 12 months from today. Where would you be? And so I think we had like 5 or 10 minutes to just write on the piece of paper all these visions that we had 12 months from today. And as I'm writing, it took me a couple minutes to even put pen to the paper because I just couldn't figure it out. And I was so confused as to where I was going to be next and what I was going to do. And I found the paper, and here's what I wrote. 1 year from today, I hope I'm back at this exact conference with an entirely new story to tell. I hope that God guides me through the questions and concerns I have about branching. Ultimately, it is his plan, whether that is branching, selling, or moving on from Vector. I'm in such a state of confusion right now over what I should do. So ultimately, I will have inner peace. I know that wherever I am 1 year from today, I can trust that God put me on the best path for who I am and what I strive to be. I genuinely hope that's with Vector, and I hope I will find the courage to run a branch. And so here we are, hindsight's 2020, almost wrapping up my first branch summer in St. Cloud. And I want you guys to notice that, like, yeah, from the start, I thought it would be great, but it was not an easy thing for me. And there was a lot of uncertainty about taking that next step. And so I wrote this out, and the conference went on, and all of a sudden there was someone on stage speaking about this topic. And the topic was position of choice. And I'd never heard I never heard this phrase before until that day. And so as they're talking about position of choice, I was kind of thinking in my head, I was like, you know what? Like, I've been doing this. I was like, I have been doing this. And I want to kind of go back and explain to you what I mean by that. So my whole life, I grew up a huge Vikings fan. It was basically a religion in our household. My dad raised us, so Skol. If you're not a Vikings fan, too bad. But huge Vikings fan. And so my dream my whole life was to work for the Minnesota Vikings. And so in high school, I would try to like get connections and try to piece my way together. How can I someday work for the Minnesota Vikings? And so I chose Mankato for sports management. I researched the program. They had lots of connections with the Vikings. The owner of the Vikes went to school there, all this stuff. And so I ultimately chose Mankato. Well, a couple weeks into school, I met a guy who knew a guy who got me a job with the Minnesota Vikings. And so there I am in the white shirt, dream come true, except for the fact that I found out I didn't like working in sports at all. And I'd rather just watch the game on TV and like scroll through my fantasy football and whatever. So I found out working in sports wasn't going to be my thing. All this years of research going into it, I changed my major within three months of school to marketing. And all of a sudden I wasn't sports management. I was a marketing student. My dream of working for the Vikings was gone. I replaced it with this dream of working for a company called C.H. Robinson. The reason I was obsessed with this company was I had a connection from high school who worked there. And so from November to December, I had this pipe dream of like, I'm going to work for this company, C.H. Robinson. Well, then winter break came, I found Vector, and I started selling knives. And the whole time while I was selling, my dream was like, I'm going to sell all these knives so that I can get good for C.H. Robinson. Was like my mentality that was going into it. And so as I was getting all these marketing skills, I was like, why am I going to school for marketing? So I switched to accounting, as you can see on top there. And so as I'm selling Cutco, my mom's first cousin, who's in medical sales, reached out to me. And she goes, oh, this is awesome. Like Vector is great business and sales skills and whatever. She introduced me to pharmaceutical sales. I'd never heard of it before, but I knew that they made a lot of money. And so all of a sudden I'm obsessed with medical sales. And so scratch the C.H. Robinson thing from January to May. If someone asked me what I'm going to do when I grow up, I told them I'm going to sell pharmaceutical sales. I'm going to be medical sales. And so all year, all spring, as I sold Cutco, and while I'm at school, going to school for accounting, thinking maybe I'll be an accountant, I'm thinking that someday I'm going to be a pharmaceutical salesman. And so the whole time I was selling, I was talking my mom into taking a trip out and visiting Angie in California so that I could talk to her about this medical sales dream. And so I talked my mom into it. We went out there in June. I was super excited because I was going to get to talk to her about being medical sales and whatever. 10 minutes into the conversation, I found out not my thing. Like all this preparation for this medical sales pipe dream. And we talked about it for 10 minutes. And I was just like, I came to the realization that medical sales had to do with science, and science is not my thing. I got 15 on my ACT for science. So not good, not smart with that. And I kind of threw that out the window. And so all year I'd been preparing for this. Well, that was the end of June. We went on that trip. So we came back and all of a sudden it was SC2. And so during SC2, I was selling Cutco. It was my main priority was selling Cutco. Well, on the side, I was trying to figure out am I going back to school in August? Like, what am I doing? I don't want to be an accountant. I don't want to do medical sales. So I'm selling all this Cutco. The world's like spinning over here though. And so what I ultimately came to was I'm going to go to the tech school for architectural drafting and design. And so I just became obsessed with drafting houses. And so the last day of SC2, I actually took 6 hours off to go to work with my dad's buddy who was a draftsman. And so I went to work with him for 6 hours. I watched him do all this drafting stuff. And I thought, you know what, this could be pretty cool. I was like, I think I might do this whole drafting thing. I was telling everyone, like, all right, like I like the drafting. This is good. I'm probably going to the tech school. So I applied for it. And then TLA started. So like it went right from SC2 to TLA. And all of a sudden in TLA, I was introduced to this concept of investing and this concept of being your own boss someday. And I read the book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And all of a sudden I was obsessed with like, well, why would I work for a company? I can run my own company. And so I was obsessed with this the entire fall semester of school. I did go back. This time I chose to go for finance. Another major change. I chose finance as what I was going to do because that put me in the best position to run my own business someday. While I'm doing all this and learning and reading books, and I put a ton of time into the concept of investing and energy and had a lot of good conversations with a lot of people. While all this was going on, I was selling Cutco in the fall, and I was treating the fall as if I was going to run an office. So I listened to Colton Horn's podcast in October, and from that moment forward, I made the conscious decision that I'm going to prepare as if I'm running an office next summer. And so this was the position of choice. And basically what I did was I'm going to prepare as if I'm doing this. If I don't, I don't. But if I do, I'll be ready for it. And like I will be prepared at the highest level. And so I put time and energy into this. And I was learning about investing. I was preparing as if I'm running an office. I was going to school for finance. And then when winter break came, I was in a position that I could start to explode and start building this summer. And so winter break came. And I had a bunch of people that I'd recruited to sell Cutco. And it was really exciting because a lot of them I could picture on my team for the summer. And they sold a ton of Cutco. I earned a trip to Cabo. And as January is like going on around me, I was thinking, why would I go back to school? I was like, man, I could vector forever. And so I was like obsessed with this vector idea of like, I'm not going back to school. Like, I can run an office at a high level. Like I can do this thing. And so I started reading more books about real estate. And so now not only was I educated on investing in real estate, but I also was in a really good spot to run a great office this summer. Because I took the fall serious, I crushed the team builder portion of January, which set me up with an awesome team to come full speed ahead for summer. Well, in January, I realized that probably should take my classes. So I went back to school for finance again. And this time it was almost just like full speed ahead. How can I build this summer and how can I make this summer special? And so I put a ton of effort into being prepared for the summer. I was getting up at 5 a.m. every single day. I had a workout routine down. I had a morning routine down. I was crushing my classes, and all of a sudden COVID hit in March. And so from January to mid-March, I was just crushing school and I was crushing preparation for my office. And then when COVID hit, I was back at home, working from home, and I decided, you know what? I'll pass my classes, but I'm just going to go in on doing something special this summer. And I wouldn't have had the opportunity to do what we've done this summer if I wouldn't have been setting myself up throughout the course of the year. So as the spring was unfolding, I realized that we had a shot to do something special in the summer. And so the summer has been basically 24/7 St. Cloud Council. I'm going to run this branch office at the highest level that I can. And I'm going to be there for my people 24/7. And it's been an unbelievable experience. It's been exhausting for sure, but I wouldn't trade it for the world. And it's been unbelievable. And so what I've found now is that because I was prepared for it, the office experience was completely different. And now I'm stuck at a place where the summer's ending and I have no idea what's next. And so I think this is probably really important for you guys to recognize is it looks like I have all these things going right, or it looks like I'm figuring things out. And we've crushed this summer as a team, and I've done some really cool things in Vector. I still have absolutely no idea what's next. And so this fall, it's do I go back to school? This fall, do I open a district? Do I pursue a pilot opportunity? Do I run a branch again next summer and spend the fall preparing for that? It's I don't really know what's next. And I think that's important to recognize if you're sitting here and you're well, I don't know if I'm going back to school, and I don't know if I don't know if next summer's an office is going to be my thing. And I don't know what I'm doing in the fall. I don't know what I'm doing tomorrow. I don't know what I'm doing next week. It's we're all kind of in this together. We're all in this together. Even the people that are seems like I might be above you. I'm not. We're all 20-year-olds or 18 or 19-year-olds, and we're all in this together. And so if you're looking at all these slides, okay, Alex, what's your point? Why'd you just tell us your whole life story? It's because here's what my life looks like for the past year and a half. And there's a couple of colleges and major changes. And it's if you see my name on the reports, you're probably man, that guy's got it figured out. That guy's crushing it. I'm here to tell you that I don't have it figured out. The last year and a half has not been easy. I went through a relationship that ended. I almost tried to switch schools. I've switched my major 5 times. I've had 10 different dream jobs someday. And while all this stuff has been going on, I now moved back home. While all this stuff has been going on around me, what you'll notice is that Vector is right there. And Vector's never moved. And Vector has been basically the solid foundation of me figuring out the rest of my life. And Vector is essentially my position of choice. And it's because of Vector that I can go through all of this other stuff and I can still be in a position to succeed. So while the rest of the world is figuring it out and you guys are figuring it out and we're all figuring it out together, I think that it's important to recognize it's I'm like any other 20-year-old that has no idea what's going on with my life. And you're all like any other 20-year-old that has no idea what's going on with their life. We're all in this together. Except one thing, we work for Vector. And Vector's going to be right here. And so while we figure it out, we have the opportunity to work for Vector. And I think it's so powerful to recognize that Vector is not a job. Vector is an opportunity. Vector gives you the opportunity and gifts you the opportunity to figure your life out while you're selling knives, to figure your life out while you're growing exponentially, to figure everything else out in your life while you have a solid foundation of a group of people around you that are choosing growth. And being Vector trained, it's because of Vector, we're unlike any other 20-year-olds. We're different because of Vector. And so Vector trained to me means so many things. And Vector trained to you might mean so many other things. That's the beauty of Vector is it's not a one-size-fits-all kind of thing. And so my question to you, if you're considering moving on from Vector, and if you don't know what you're doing this fall, so you're choosing to step away, my question to you is, where are you going to go? My question to you is, what do they offer? And if you're well, I'm not going anywhere. I'm just going to be done, done selling knives because the summer's over. I just need some time off. It's this, you want time off? This is Cutco. You build your own schedule. What do you mean? So my question to you is like, where are you going to go next? If you're going back to school, like if you have an internship, let's say you're like, well, I don't need Vector because I've got an internship next summer. I've got an internship this fall. It's like, what do they offer that we don't? Do you want HR skills? Hello, like that's Vector. Like, like you're going to school for business management. Where are you going to get those skills better than with Vector? Managing 30, 40, 50 other college kids' schedules along with your own. Their emotions. I will tell you, being a manager, it's like having 30, 40, 50 kids. It's the most mentally, emotionally, physically draining thing that I've ever gone through in my entire life. The hardest summer of my life. And that is hands down why it's been the most rewarding. It's the most rewarding feeling in the world when you get to look at someone and hear someone speak to you completely different than they did 2 months ago, because you changed their life forever and you gave them the Vector opportunity. And so instead of learning it and living it, now you get to gift it to others. And so my question is, if you're moving on from Vector, it's like, what skills do you want? What skills are you going to get? Because here with Vector, you get to hire, you get to fire, you get to train, you get to coach, you get to mentor, you get to learn time management, you get to hear no. You get to hear no so many times. That's something I know a lot of adults have struggled with hearing no. You get to handle objections. You get to sell. You get to do all these things while you develop yourself as a person. And then you get to instill everything you've learned into the person next to you. That's being Vector trained, and that's so special. And because of being Vector trained, I now get to say that I'm in a position of choice. And I'm in a position of choice in and out of the company, probably for the rest of my life. And the position of choice, basically, it's like I didn't open any doors to make this happen. What I did was I just sat and I let the doors open and I let the doors close in my face and I let life happen around me. As you could see from the picture, I let life happen around me while I sat and waited with Vector. And so what I really want to challenge to you guys is like, you don't have to choose to open the door. You don't have to be like I was last year at SC2 where you feel this immense pressure to make a decision. You don't have to make a decision. Opportunity knocks, they say, right? Well, Vector, it's blowing through the door. And so you don't have to open it and let it in. You don't have to walk through the door. Vector is about to explode into the room in 2021. Vector is about to take off in 2021 if you haven't heard yet. And so the beauty of all of this is if you just let yourself sit in a position of choice, you don't have to make the tough decisions. You don't have to decide what you're doing next. All you have to do is sit and prepare as if, just like I did last year, sit and prepare as if you want to run a branch while you figure out life around you. Because you don't have to make the decision when you're sitting in a position of choice. I want to thank you guys for spending some time with me today. I hope you guys take so much out of this message. I hope you take so much out of SC2. Feel free to reach out to me whenever. I'm genuinely an open book. I would love to talk to anyone. Have an awesome rest of the conference. I love you all, and thanks again for listening.